Okay, so if you've ever tried to learn a new language, you know this feeling. You've memorized the grammar rules, you can totally read a menu, but then someone asks you a simple question and your mind just goes completely blank. Speaking is almost always the biggest hurdle, right? It's like the final boss of language learning. So why is it so much harder than everything else? And, what can we actually do about it?
Let's frame it this way. Why is speaking a new language so often compared to something like climbing Mount Everest? Because that's what it feels like. This huge, intimidating peak. You might have all the right gear, the vocabulary, the grammar, but the actual climb itself, that's a whole different beast. So what is it that makes speaking so radically different from, say, reading or writing?
All right, so before we can even think about starting our ascent, we need a map of the terrain. We have to understand what we're up against. What are the specific challenges, the cliffs and crevasses that make this speaking mountain so incredibly daunting? Because it's not just about knowing the words, it's about using them under some serious pressure.
And here it is. This is really the heart of the problem, the real-time juggle. See, unlike writing, where you can pause and you can edit and you can get it just right, speaking is, well, it's a high-wire act with no safety net. You're trying to think about who you're talking to, where you are, what you're trying to say, and how to say it correctly, all at the exact same time. It all happens in a split second, and there's just no rewind button.
So this constant juggling act, it creates this really unique set of pressures. They're like these invisible forces that can make or break a conversation. Let's break down exactly what they are.
First up, context. Think about it, right? The way you talk to your best friend is completely different from how you talk to your boss. And where you are matters too. A casual chat in a park feels way different than giving a big presentation at work. Every single one of these situations demands a slightly different version of the language, which just adds another layer of complexity for your brain to sort through. Next is the absolute, relentless pressure of time. Or maybe it's better to say, the lack of time. Most conversations are totally spontaneous. You're just expected to reply right away. You don't get hours to carefully craft the perfect sentence like you would in an email. It's all happening live, right here, right now.
And then, of course, there's the topic itself. If you're talking about something you're passionate about, something you know inside and out, the words just seem to flow, don't they? But what happens when someone puts you on the spot about a subject you know next to nothing about? All of a sudden, your brain is scrambling for words, and that confidence just, poof, it evaporates.
And finally, and this one is huge, there's the audience. This is such a massive psychological hurdle. Are you talking to a native speaker? Do you have that little voice in your head that says they're judging every single mistake? That fear, that social anxiety, it can totally freeze you up and stop you from speaking naturally, even when you actually know what to say.
To really get a handle on the unique challenge of speaking, it's super helpful to compare it to its counterpart, writing. Now, you might think they're just two sides of the same coin, but in reality, they are worlds apart. Look at this. Spoken language, it's like smoke. It's spontaneous, it's fleeting, and then it's just gone. It's a dance, back and forth. But writing is more like carving something in stone. It's planned, it's permanent, and there's a huge emphasis on getting it exactly right. You can't really be interrupted while you're writing a sentence, but in a conversation, it's happening constantly. This is a huge reason why speaking can feel so much more exposed.
Okay, so we've mapped the mountain. We've looked at the dangers, but here's the really good news. You do not have to climb it empty-handed. There's a whole toolkit of strategies that even native speakers use all the time to navigate conversations. And right now, we're going to open it up.
These tools are so simple, but they are incredibly powerful. Asking someone to repeat what they said isn't a failure, it's a smart strategy. Using little words like, "Really?" or "I see." That shows you're paying attention. And here's the real game changer. Those things you might think of as bad habits, like using vague language or filler words, they're actually essential strategies for buying yourself that precious, precious thinking time.
Let's just double-click on that last point for a second. A filler word. You know that or like or, it's not a mistake. It is a tool. It's a verbal placeholder that you use to hold your spot in the conversation while your brain catches out. Seriously, start thinking of it as a strategic pause, not a personal flaw.
So, what's the big takeaway here? We've talked about the pressures, the strategies, the tools, but they all point to one single thing, the real, true goal of learning to speak any language.
It really all boils down to this. The goal isn't to achieve flawless, textbook perfection. The goal is to be prepared for life. It's about connection, it's about communication, and it's about navigating the messy, wonderful, and totally unpredictable world of real human interaction.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. We're always taught to fear mistakes, right? To get rid of our ums and uhs. But what if we've been looking at this whole thing completely backward? What if your biggest perceived flaw is actually your greatest strength? What if those fillers and pauses aren't signs of failure, but the very tools you need to finally conquer the speaking mountain?